Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the worn-out sandals of a child growing up in Vietnam during the war bombings. You're maybe 8, maybe 9. You've already stopped counting birthdays. It's midday. The sky is a pale wash of smoke and sun, and you're playing beside a rice paddy with a chipped plastic ball that's more patched than sphere. There's laughter, shouting, the rhythmic squeak of a rusty bicycle in the distance. And then it happens. A distant drone. Faint. At first, you mistake it for bees. But it grows, deep and metallic, and then the siren splits the air like it's been torn in two. Its howling pitch twists your gut before your ears catch up. You freeze. Everyone does. For just a beat. Then, chaos. You probably won't survive this. But that's the thing. You've never known a world where this doesn't happen. You run. Dust kicks up behind your bare feet as your little brother grabs your hand. You both dart down the same alley you always do, past the neighbor's broken water pump, past the empty bird cage that once held doves. A dog howls. Somewhere a pan drops. You think you hear your mother call your name, but there's no time to look back. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your city and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you all are tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're squeezing into a shelter so small you can't stand. It's just a dugout with a woven thatch roof and a mud floor. But it's what you've got. Around you, neighbors are packed like sardines. Aunt Ba with her tin rice can. Uncle Hong cradling a chicken that's somehow still alive. Someone farts and it breaks the tension just enough for a nervous giggle to ripple through. Outside, the sky is no longer blue. Boom. The first impact isn't even close, but the ground lurches like it's hiccuping. Dust rains from the thatch above. Babies cry. Someone starts praying, too loud. Your brother clutches your side, burying his head into your ribs. You smell the top of his hair, ash and sweat. You try to distract yourself by counting breaths. 10 in, 10 out. That's what your grandmother taught you. She said it was Buddhist, or maybe just practical. You can't remember. Honestly, at this point, survival tips blur with bedtime stories. Another boom. Closer. You flinch. So does everyone. You wonder if the village's big mango tree is still standing, or if the pig survived. Silly things to think about when death is tap dancing above your head, but your brain goes where it wants. Then there's silence, which is worse, because when things go quiet, it usually means something's hovering, waiting. Even the chickens outside seem to know. They've gone silent too. You all hold your breath. And then the whine of jets. The Americans call them phantoms. F-4s. Sleek. Fast. Deadly. You've never seen one up close, but you've heard stories from the older kids. They say they poop fire. They say they scream like banshees before they kill you. And just like that, they're gone. The adults wait. 5 seconds. 10. Then someone peeks out. The light looks normal. A signal passes down the line of huddled bodies. False alarm. You crawl out second, trailing behind your brother. The village looks unchanged. Mostly. A few more cracks in the wall here. A roof tile missing there. It could have been worse. But you still notice the new scorch mark on the edge of Mr. Bin's shack. It's small, but fresh. You look up, and there, caught in a nearby tree branch, is a single singed flip-flop. No one says anything. That night, you don't sleep. Not really. You lie beside your mother, who smells like lemongrass and wood smoke, and listen to her heartbeat like it's the ticking of a fragile clock. Every now and then, someone's motorbike coughs to life somewhere down the dirt road, or the dogs bark, and your muscles tense again. You think about school. about your teacher's scolding voice, about the silly boy who gave you a dragonfly he caught in his shirt pocket. You wonder if he's okay. Historically, the U.S. began bombing North Vietnam heavily by 1965 in what was called Operation Rolling Thunder. Over the next few years, over 7 million tons of bombs would fall, more than all of World War II combined. Many were aimed at supply lines like the Ho Chi Minh Trail, but villages like yours were often caught in the chaos. You didn't know strategy. You just knew sirens and smoke. Some historians still argue whether these bombings hastened the end of the war or just hardened the resistance. Meanwhile, you learn how to sleep with your shoes on, just in case, because the sirens don't run on a schedule. The next time the sirens wail, you're ready. Sort of. You keep a burlap sack near the door now. It holds exactly 4 things: a crumpled photo of your dad in uniform, a can of dried anchovies, a flashlight with no batteries, and a piece of red string your little brother insists is lucky. It's not much, but when you live under the threat of sudden fire from the sky, every second counts, and every item feels sacred. You grab the bag as your brother fumbles with his sandals. He always puts them on the wrong feet. You don't bother correcting him anymore. The sky's already started that strange shimmering it gets just before the jets arrive. Like the heat is nervous too. You push open the door, and the heat hits you like a wet blanket made of steam and exhaust. The air smells like wet soil, burned plastic, and something you can't quite name. Something metallic. Something wrong. Down the alley again, over the cracked pavement. This time, someone's yelling names. Your neighbor, Mr. Tuan, is screaming for his wife. He's barefoot, shirtless, eyes wild. You see the fear in his face and feel it ricochet through your chest like a stone skipping water. You don't stop running. The shelter today is fuller than yesterday. Someone's brought a radio, crackling with static and half sentences about troop movements. But the adults hush it quickly. Radios can draw attention. You didn't know sound could be a target. But here we are. You wedge yourself between a woman humming a prayer and a boy you've never seen before, face streaked with mud and something red. He doesn't speak, just stares. Outside, the first wave hits. This one's closer. The ground jolts. Like a giant below is punching upward, angry at the noise. A bowl crashes somewhere behind you. A baby starts to scream. Someone is sobbing quietly. It might be you. You wait. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Then, the second wave. This time, it's not just sound, it's pressure. You feel it in your lungs, your ears, your teeth. The hut rattles like it wants to take flight. And for a second, you wonder the earth itself might come unglued. When it stops, you're still holding your breath. And then you hear it, a high-pitched whimper. Your brother. You turn. He's trying to be brave, lips pressed tight, but tears have carved tracks through the dust on his cheeks. You hug him, not because you're brave, but because you're terrified he'll disappear if you let go. That's when someone opens the shelter flap. They say it's over. For now. You emerge, blinking in the thick light. The alley you ran through? Gone. Not entirely, but enough. The tree with the red hammock? Split down the middle. The noodle cart on the corner? Ash. A dog lies still in the road, its leash still tied to a post that no longer exists. You don't look too closely. You've learned that lesson. It's strange, but your first thought is, will the mangoes still ripen this season? Life goes on after all. Your neighbor, the old woman who sells sweet tofu, is already sweeping debris from her doorway. She lost a window. Again. She sighs like it's the rain come early. Same sky, she mutters, but different thunder, and somehow that comforts you. In the days that follow, you start taking different routes to the shelter, just in case. You practice holding your breath for longer. You learn that the second siren is worse than the first, that if you see the planes, it's already too late. Historically, Shelters during the war varied wildly. Some were proper bunkers, reinforced with concrete. Others were barely more than ditches with bamboo roofs. Many Vietnamese families, especially in rural areas, had to build and maintain their own, digging by hand. The government distributed pamphlets on bomb safety, and children were taught drills, not unlike fire drills, but with higher stakes. A lesser-known fact? Some families marked their homes with chalk symbols that supposedly warded off bombs. Superstition? Maybe. But when death comes from above, people try anything. Historians still argue whether these shelter drills helped save lives or simply gave people a false sense of preparedness. Either way, you keep running when the sirens scream. Because hope isn't always logical. It's just fast. That night, you dream of water. Not the good kind, cool rivers or warm soup, but of heavy, dark wave crashing into your village, washing away homes, friends, everything. And when you wake, your fingers are still clutched around that red string. In the morning, the planes don't come, and you almost miss them. Almost. The next day, school doesn't happen. To be fair, it hasn't happened properly in weeks. Or months. Time has gotten fuzzy, measured not in calendars, but in how many sirens since you last saw a chalkboard. You still call it school, though. Still wear your faded uniform shirt when you go. Still sit on an old plastic chair with 3 legs, balancing like a circus trick, while your classroom crumbles a little more each day. This morning, though, the schoolyard isn't a schoolyard at all. It's a hole. A wide, ragged wound in the dirt where the main building used to be. You stand at the edge with your brother and a few other kids, staring at it like it might blink back. Smoke still curls up from somewhere deep inside. The ground still warm. A page from someone's notebook flutters past your feet. You don't speak. No one does. The chalkboard is gone. The teacher's bamboo pointer stick is snapped in half. And your friend Han's lunch tin, metal blue, with a faded cartoon rabbit, is sitting near the edge, somehow untouched. You wonder if she'll come back for it. She doesn't. In the weeks that follow, school becomes a patch of dirt under a banyan tree near the edge of the village. No desks, no bell, no walls to hang drawings on. Just a low platform made of bricks and a woman with kind eyes and a missing ear. Her name is Miss Lou. She used to be a literature teacher. Now she teaches everything: math, geography, poetry, first aid. You like the poetry days best, especially when she reads them soft, like lullabies with sharp teeth. Today, she writes a line on a scrap of cardboard with a piece of charcoal. Ke hung la chum king gat. Home is a cluster of sweet starfruit. You're not sure what that means anymore, but you hum the line to yourself anyway. It's the only sweet thing you'll get today. Miss Lou makes jokes about how you'll all grow up to be scholars if you don't get bombed first. No one laughs, but no one cries either. It's a strange talent, this ability to sit under a tree with shrapnel embedded in its trunk and pretend everything is fine. Sometimes you hear the low hum of a plane overhead. Everyone freezes. Heads tilt up, hearts stutter. But the plane passes. Maybe it's just a transport. Maybe it's going somewhere else. Maybe you're just lucky. You go back to reciting multiplication tables. Historically, many Vietnamese schools during the war were forced to go underground. Literally. Entire classes relocated to tunnels or makeshift shelters. Children continued studying amid air raids, and teachers like Miss Lou became unsung heroes, keeping lessons alive with no books, no supplies, just memory and sheer stubbornness. One lesser-known fact? Kids often use bomb casings as chalk holders or pencil boxes. Recycle war debris became part of everyday life. Education didn't pause. It just adapted. Historians still debate whether this generation's resilience was born from patriotism, necessity, or trauma too deep to name. But either way, The lesson stuck. After class, you and your brother walk home past a house that's now 3 walls and a mattress. A chicken is perched calmly on what used to be someone's stove. You wonder if it lays radioactive eggs. The bomb crater at school has filled with rainwater. It's too deep to play in, so the kids toss pebbles and see who sinks fastest. Someone jokes that it'll be the new village swimming pool. Everyone pretends to chuckle, but secretly, you all imagine floating in cool water, weightless and safe. That night you can't sleep. You lie in the dark and replay the lessons in your head. Long division, Vietnamese proverbs, how to bind a wound with a strip of mosquito net. And you remember Miss Liu's words when the plane passed overhead earlier. If you can hear it, it probably missed you. She said it with a wink, like she wasn't afraid at all. And for a second, you believed her. Dinner isn't what it used to be. You used to sit cross-legged on the cool tile floor. The family gathered around a woven tray. There'd be a bowl of rice, maybe a little fish if your father brought some home, and always a dish of pickled vegetables your mother made from scratch. You never liked the sour crunch, but now you'd trade your only pair of sandals for one bite. Tonight, dinner is thin rice porridge, mostly water, barely rice, and a few dried anchovies you chewed for an hour because it made them last longer. Your mother adds wild herbs from the jungle edge, the kind the soldiers warned might be tainted. But what choice do you have? The meal is silent except for slurps. Everyone eats slowly, carefully, like chewing too fast might waste a moment. Your brother burps. You glare. He grins. Somehow, he's always hungry and never full. Your grandfather breaks the silence. He calls this feast compared to 45, referencing the Great Famine of 1945 that wiped out millions across the North. That year, he says, poking at the porridge with a carved spoon, people boiled banana peels and ate clay to fill their bellies. You glance at the floor, wondering how clay tastes. Your grandmother, who rarely speaks, mutters something about rice spirits and lost offerings. You're not sure what it means, but it feels heavy, like her words carry the weight of missing gods. Outside, dogs bark. Not the playful kind of barking, more like warning shots made of teeth. You freeze, spoon halfway to your lips. Everyone listens. Then nothing, just the wind, ruffling banana leaves, and whistling through cracks in the walls. You eat the rest of your meal with your back to the door. After dinner, someone makes a joke, half serious, that the rats in the grain bin are getting fatter than the family. Your uncle volunteers to catch one. Meat is meat, he says with crooked grin, and your stomach lurches. But he's not kidding. Historically, food shortages during the war were a daily struggle. Supply chains were destroyed, fields burned, livestock killed or stolen. Families relied on ration coupons and barter with neighbors. Children scavenged for edible roots, and anything vaguely chewable was considered food. Here's a quirky tidbit. In some areas, villagers used mashed cassava or even powder tree bark to bulk up their rice rations. It filled the stomach, but made your mouth taste like wet paper. Historians still argue whether the distribution of aid was mismanaged or simply overwhelmed by the scale of devastation. Some blame bureaucracy, others sabotage. Either way, families like yours bore the brunt. That night, your mother opens a little tin where she keeps the precious things. Not jewelry, those were long sold. Not letters, those were long burned. Inside are a nearly full matchbox, a bar of laundry soap, and one single square cube of bouillon, chicken flavor. Your brother's eyes widen like he's seen treasure. Can we use it? He whispers. She shakes her head. Rainy season, she replies. We save it for when the roads vanish. You don't argue. Later, you sit outside under a makeshift mosquito net, listening to crickets that have somehow survived everything else. You're full, sort of, and sleepy, sort of. Your grandfather lights a small oil lamp, and its flicker makes your brother's shadow dance like a marionette on the wall. You think we'll eat chicken again someday? Your brother asks. You pause. Only if the chicken doesn't eat us first, you say. He giggles. You smile. And for a moment, dinner doesn't seem so bad. The night doesn't end. It just mutates. You lie on your mat, half asleep, listening to the softest of wind through the bamboo fence. Your eyes twitch beneath their lids. In your dream, the sky is full of glowing birds. You think maybe they're phoenixes, until one dives, explodes, and shakes the earth. You wake just before the real shaking begins. It starts as a low rumble. Not thunder. Thunder rolls. This pulses, like the ground is drumming. Then comes a faint metallic whine, the unmistakable sound of jet engines. And then, boom, you jolt upright. The room shakes. The window shutters rattle. The oil lamp tips nearly spills. Your brother whimpers from beside you, already crawling toward your mother's arms. And then it happens again. Boom. This time, the floor shifts beneath your feet. Not much. Just enough to remind you that we can snap, and mud walls don't argue with shock waves. You grab your sack. Your brother already has a red string wrapped tight around his wrist like armor. Your mother doesn't scream. She doesn't speak. She just moves, quick, practiced, barefoot. Outside, the night sky lights up in angry orange pulses. But it's not fire. Not yet. These are flares. They hang in the air like ghost lanterns, lighting up everything with an unnatural glow. You can see the whole village bathed in silver orange, roofs, palms, skinny dogs darting under houses. It's almost beautiful. If it weren't for the bombs falling second behind. You all run. The shelter's too far this time. So you dive into a roadside ditch. It smells like wet grass, sour sweat, and something animal. You don't care. Your mother covers you both with her shawl, as if cloth could stop a bomb. Another explosion, this one too close. You hear tin roofs peel back like banana skins, with splinters like dry crackers, and a high-pitched whine cuts the air just above your head. When it stops, you don't move. You don't even breathe until your brother whispers, "Are we ghosts now?" You peek up. The flares are still there, drifting down like strange stars on parachutes, bathing the wreckage in daylight that shouldn't exist. Historically, these were illumination flares dropped by U.S. aircraft during bombing runs. Designed to expose movement and guide nighttime targeting, they often lit entire areas as bright as day. To children on the ground, they made shadows look like ghosts and safety feel like theater. One quirky fact? Some villagers believed the flares were cursed. Spirits of the mountain gods, angry at being disturbed. Children were told not to look directly at them or they'd go blind. You always peeked anyway. Historians still argue whether these bombings were strategic necessity or psychological warfare. What's undeniable is the effect. Villages lit up like stages, with death waiting in the wings. Eventually, the noise fades. Silence comes like a gift wrapped in static. You emerge slowly. The house across from yours is gone. Just gone. A crater where the kitchen was. A burning sock hangs from a branch. You look away. You return home. Not to sleep, but to sweep debris, to check for cracks, to boil water. That's what survival looks like here. Not escape, just continuation. You step outside again before dawn. The sky is finally dark again. No more flares. No more firelight. Just stars. A real night sky. And that alone feels like a miracle. Your brother points upward. Do you think the stars get scared when the flares come? You look at his face, dirt streak, wide-eyed, and realize he's serious. You don't know how to answer, so you say the first thing that comes to mind. No, The stars just wait. The river used to be a place of joy. Before the war, you'd go there with your cousins, all shrieking and barefoot, skipping stones, fishing with bent hooks, or pretending to be dragons when you splashed too loudly. Now, the river is quieter, not because it's peaceful, because it's afraid. You wake early, just after sunrise, and grab the woven basket your mother uses for collecting kindling. Today, she asked you to gather firewood before the midday heat makes the air too thick to breathe. Your brother tags along, of course. He never lets you go alone, even when he's told to stay. The path to the river still feels familiar, but it looks different every day. A tree leans at a strange angle from last week's explosion. Someone's bicycle tire is stuck in the mud, half buried like a time capsule. Craters pock the trails like angry footsteps from a giant that wandered off in the night. When you reach the riverbank, the water's low, sluggish brown, streaked with a faint rainbow sheen. You don't ask why. You already know. Agent Orange. That's what the grown-ups call it. A name that sounds more like a soda than a curse. It was meant to kill trees. They say, strip the jungle, expose the enemy. But it killed fish, too. Birds. People. Your cousin used to catch frogs here. Now, he has rashes on his legs that haven't gone away in months. Your brother finds a stick and starts poking in the mud. You follow, walking the edge where water meets dirt, watching out for the shiny things. Because here's the thing, war leaves gifts. Not good ones. Shrapnel, empty bullet casings. Bits of things that shouldn't be shiny but are. You once found a spoon with American writing on it. It's still in your kitchen drawer. Today, you spot a small metal shard sticking out of the sand. You freeze. It might be nothing, but it might be a bomblet. You wave your brother back. He frowns but obeys. You take a long stick and gently tap the metal. No click, no hiss, just silence. Still, you don't touch it. You've learned better. Instead, you mark it with a circle of stones. When you return to the village, you'll tell someone. Maybe the militia. Maybe no one. Depends on the day. Historically, rivers across Vietnam were transformed by the war. Bombings destroyed dams, napalm scorched nearby banks, and chemical defoliants poisoned water sources. Children, unaware of long-term dangers, continued playing in toxic rivers for years. Here's a lesser-known detail. Villagers sometimes use bomb craters as ponds, breeding fish, catching rainwater, even washing clothes in them. Survival doesn't wait for ideal conditions. Historians still debate whether the ecological impact of the war was deliberate or a side effect of tactics. But they agree the environment was a battlefield too. Your brother shouts, he's found Frog, miraculously alive. You laugh, loud and sudden, because it's just so absurd to be excited over something so small. But he's grinning like he found treasure. You let him keep it in a jar. On the way home, you carry a bundle of twigs, and he carries the frog. The air smells like wet leaves and diesel smoke. At one point, you stop and look back at the river. The reflection's still there, gray clouds rippling on dirty water. It's not the same river you knew, but it's still flowing, still trying. So are you. At first, you think it's thunder, a low, distant boom that rolls over the hills like someone dragging a giant drum. But then it happens again, sharper, quicker, less sky, more intentional. You pause mid-step, balancing a basket of yams your mother sent you to trade. Your brother looks up too. You both freeze on the dusty road, unsure whether duck or run, or pretend it didn't happen. And then the rumors start. Adults whisper while they sweep doorways or patch roofs. Someone says the Americans are coming closer. Someone else says a group of rebels tried to ambush a convoy last night. Others just shake their heads and mutter names. My Lai, Quang Tri, Pleiku, places you've only ever heard followed by the word burned. One name keeps coming up like a bad smell, Agent Orange. You don't know what it is exactly, just that it's in the leaves, the soil, the rain, that it makes babies come out wrong and trees die standing. You once saw a row of banana trees near the jungle edge where all the leaves had curled up like fists. Your grandmother crossed herself and spat 3 times. This morning, a man with one arm came through the village selling batteries and soap. He wore an old North Vietnamese army hat and carried his wares in an American duffel bag. You couldn't stop staring at the stitched letters. USMC. He saw you staring and winked. Souvenir, he said. You didn't ask from which side. Because that's the thing. Nobody knows who is coming anymore. Soldiers wear all kinds of uniforms. Some speak Vietnamese with heavy accents. Some give out candy. Others don't speak at all. Later that day, a truck rumbles down the road, kicking up red dust. It's green. Huge. Foreign-looking. Everyone watches from their doorways as it crawls past. In the back, you spot soldiers, American you think, big helmets, sunglasses, guns pointing at the dirt. One of them tosses something. It lands with thunk in the road, a package square and wrapped in shiny foil. You all stare at it like it's a grenade. Finally, a brave kid from the next house runs and grabs it. It's chewing gum. You all chew a piece like it's magic. Historically, interactions between civilians and American troops varied wildly. In some villages, U.S. soldiers were feared as invaders. In others, they were seen as protectors, or at least suppliers of hard-to-find goods like candy, canned meat, or matches. Here's a fringe fact. During lulls in combat, some U.S. troops traded with locals, using their own rations as currency. There were even cases where children acted as messengers or guides in exchange for food, though it came with enormous risk. Historians still argue whether these small acts of kindness humanized the war or simply masked its brutality. One chocolate bar doesn't undo a scorched village. Back home, your brother is bouncing with excitement. He waved at me, he says. The soldier, he waved. You nod, smile, but a part of you feels uneasy. Because not long ago, you saw what happened when a different group of men came through. No waving, no candy, just shouting and fire and the awful sound a house makes when it collapses. That night, you can't sleep again. Not because of bombs, but because of not knowing. Are they friends? Are they enemies? Are they just tired boys with guns and orders? You lie awake wondering if the chewing gum has poison in it, or if maybe it's just gum and you've forgotten what safe feels like. The wrapper glows faintly in the moonlight. You keep it in your pocket, just in case. You don't play hide and seek anymore. Not in the way you used to. No giggles behind water jars. No peeking through woven fences. No triumphant yells when someone's caught. Now it's quieter, sharper. Less a game, more a lesson. You play it underground. The tunnel is just tall enough to crouch in and just wide enough to bump elbows. It smells like damp roots, sweat, and something sour that clings to your clothes even after you surface. Your village didn't have tunnels before the war. Now, everyone's got one or wants one. You learned early. Silence can be louder than screaming. Today, the sirens don't even finish their song before the first tremor hits. Your mother shoves a basket she was steaming rice into the side and yells for you and your brother. You grab your sack. He grabbed the frog jar, of course. And you all dash to the hidden panel behind the chicken coop. The tunnel has no lights. Just 2 small oil lamps nailed into clay walls. The air is thick and unmoving, like you're breathing through a wet blanket. The sounds outside are muffled until they're not. Explosions still rattle the packed earth. Sometimes dust falls from the ceiling and someone whispers a prayer. There are 17 people crammed into this stretch of tunnel. Most are neighbors. One woman you don't recognize holds a crying baby. Everyone tries not to look annoyed at the baby. No one says anything. Babies cry. That's just what they do. You sit between your mother and an old man who snores when he's scared. Your brother draws shapes in the dirt with a stick. A boat, a fish, then a stick figure, arms up. Is that a ghost? You whisper. No, it's me, saying I surrender. He grins. Historically, the tunnels across Vietnam were an intricate, essential part of survival. While the Siu Chi tunnels are the most famous, many rural communities dug their own, some by hand, some with tools scavenged from bomb sites. They served as shelters, classrooms, clinics, even kitchens. One quirky detail: some kids were tasked with keeping geckos alive in tunnels. Why? Because if geckos stopped chirping, it meant something was wrong, too much carbon dioxide or incoming footsteps. Historians still argue whether the tunnel system prolonged the war or just postponed inevitable devastation. But to the people inside them, the tunnels weren't strategy. They were necessity. Hours pass, or maybe minutes. Time bends underground. Someone begins a quiet game. Who can stay silent the longest? It's not really for fun. It's for safety. But you all play along. You win. Finally, a knock at the panel above. 3 raps. Pause, then 2. The all clear. You crawl out, blinking like a mole. The sky is overcast. The air smells burned. Again, your legs feel like they don't belong to you. You look around. The hut next to yours is half gone. A cooking pot still steams in the rubble. That means the family had just finished lunch. Maybe they made it to their own tunnel. Maybe not. You say nothing. Later, you help your brother clean dirt out a frog jar. The frog somehow survived the tunnel. Your brother grins as it blinks at him like nothing's wrong. See, he says, he's brave. Or dumb. Same thing. Your brother shrugs. That night, you dream you're still underground. But in the dream, the tunnel keeps going, winding endlessly through earth and bone and stories you've never heard. You walk and walk, and when you turn to call your brother, your voice doesn't make a sound. You wake with your hand against your mouth, just to check. The rain doesn't fall, it attacks. It begins in the late afternoon, a few timid drops that hit the roof like distant drumming fingers. You pause mid-sentence, reciting a poem your teacher taught you under the banyan tree. Your brother's poking holes in a leaf with a twig. Neither of you says it out loud, but you're both listening, counting. Then the sky breaks. The monsoon roars like a stampede. Within seconds, the world outside disappears behind a shimmering curtain of silver gray. The wind shrieks between the bamboo slats and the roof, patched last week with plastic sheeting and old rice sacks. Groans like it wants to give up. Your mother shouts for you both to help. The rice sacks need securing. Water's already pouring through the corner near the clay stove. You grab a bucket. Your brother grabs a frog. Priorities. By nightfall, the yard is a swamp. The chickens refuse to come down from their perch. The pigs huddle in one corner of the pen like they're trying to become one animal. And you're barefoot in muddy water, shivering, trying not to gag at the smell. The water isn't clean. It hasn't been clean in a long time. You wade through with your bucket, noticing the slick, unnatural sheen swirling on the surface. Oil? Chemical runoff? It's hard to tell anymore. Your grandmother says his rain bites. You thought it was a joke until your brother came inside, once with a rash that took 2 weeks to fade. They say it's from the chemicals. Agent Blue, Agent White, you've lost track. You thought Agent Orange was the worst one. But apparently, there's a whole rainbow of invisible poison. Historically, monsoon season in Vietnam was both a blessing and a curse. While it often disrupted enemy supply lines and cooled the searing heat, it also flooded homes, buried crops, and turned battlefields into mud pits. For villagers, it meant sleepless nights, waterborne illness, and trench foot. Fringe detail: some Vietnamese villagers used floating baskets as mobile chicken coops during floods. They'd tether the baskets to houseboats and let them drift like boats, clucking and all. Historians still argue whether the defoliants used by the U.S. during the war had any immediate strategic benefit during monsoon season, or the chemicals just spread further in the rain. You try not to think about it as you sit on your mat, soaked, cold, and hungry. Inside, your mother is boiling water on a shaky fire. The smoke drifts sideways in the damp air, making your eyes sting. She pulls out a half handful of rice from a tin she thought was empty and drops it into the pot. You glance at your brother. He's got 2 red welts on his leg from leeches. He's holding a cup with a frog floating happily inside, seemingly unbothered. "Do frogs get rashes?" he asks. You blink. "Only if they touch your face," you say, straight-faced. He yelps and drops the cup. You both scramble to catch it before the frog escapes into the dark. You eat dinner with your feet still in puddles. A rice soup, flavored more by rainwater than anything else. You blow on it carefully. There's something about soup steam in the monsoon that feels more sacred than church. The wind howls again. Your grandfather calls it ghost wind. Says it comes from the mountains where soldiers died with no names, and now they wander looking for dry shoes. You want to laugh, but part of you listens. That night, you lie down on your woven mat beside your brother, both of you wrapped in one shared blanket. The roof still leaks. You put your tin cup under the drip. By morning, it might be full enough to wash your face. Your brother sighs. "I hate rain." You pull the blanket tighter. "I hate bombs more." There's a strange quiet in the morning. No sirens. No distant thuds. No rusted truck engines coughing awake. Just the dripping of rain off banana leaves and the buzz of mosquitoes that didn't get the memo that war should come with bug spray. You step outside, careful not to slip on the slick cement step. The yard is a mess. Muddy puddles, broken branches, your mother's broom floating like a lost boat. You hear someone sweeping nearby. The sound is oddly comforting. Sweeping means someone's still here. And then you see it. Or rather, what's not there. The house across from yours is gone. Not burnt. Not crushed. Just empty. The bamboo frame still stands, barely like the skeleton of a hut. But everything inside is ash and rubble. Even the family's old dog bowl, usually parked outside the front door, has melted into a warped disc. And then your stomach drops. Lynn, she was just there yesterday. You traded candy wrappers with her. She had this way of braiding her hair, so that it stuck out like a little crown. You thought it was silly. Now you'd give anything to see it again. You wander over, slowly, like your legs don't want to get too close. Ash kicks up around your toes. The smell is thick, burned plastic, old wood, something sweeter and more sickening underneath. Your brother follows behind you. He doesn't ask where Lynn is. You both already know. A few neighbors arrive. No one says her name. They just mutter things like, "Such a shame," and "must have been the backblast." Someone picks up a singed sandal, holds it to their chest, and then drops it again. There's no funeral. No body, just a slow gathering of broken things into neat piles. You stay and help. You don't know why. It just feels wrong to walk away. Historically, many deaths during the Vietnam War weren't recorded or reported. When bombs fell, entire families vanished. There were no casualty numbers on television, no formal graves. Children grew up not knowing what happened to neighbors, friends, even parents. One overlooked fact? In some regions, families made small spirit shells with bowls of rice and incense to honor the missing. those who had no bones left to bury. The belief was that souls still needed offerings to move on. Historians still argue whether the full civilian death toll will ever be known. Records were inconsistent, and many areas were too remote or too dangerous for formal documentation. That afternoon, your mother lights 3 sticks of incense and places them on a chipped teacup outside your door. She doesn't say who it's for. You all know. Later, you find Lynn's marbles in a tin under a tree, half melted. One is cracked, but the others still shimmer when you hold them to the light. You keep them in your sack with a red string and the picture of your dad. That night, your brother whispers, "Do you think she's watching us?" You nod. Probably. From the stars. Maybe. Or from the flares? You pause. Not the flares, you say softly. She's smarter than that. You both fall asleep without talking more. And in your dreams, there's a girl with a crown of braided hair, walking barefoot through a river that never ends. You wake up to the sound of chalk scratching, which is odd because you haven't had chalk in weeks. You crawl out from under your mosquito net, tiptoe across the cool floor, and peek outside. There, under the banyan tree, is Miss Lou. The tree's leaves still drip with last night's rain, and the ground beneath it squishes with each step. But she's there, upright, focused, her 3-fingered hand gripping a stub of white chalk like it's a sword. She's writing on a piece of black-painted scrap, with salvage from a bomb cart. Each stroke is deliberate, slow. It's not a lesson. It's a poem. You and your brother approach in silence. The others are gathering too, maybe a dozen kids, most barefoot, all watching the chalk move like it's magic. The poem reads, Dem ne tiengagai sang, Longbong no ke naexe. It's about missing home. But you're standing in your home. Sort of. Still, the words hit something inside you, like a bell. Miss Lou turns and smiles. Didn't think the rain would wash me away, did you? She says. She's thinner than before. Her hair is pulled back with a shoelace. Her shirt has a tear stitched up with red thread, and the chalk dust clings to her face like pale war paint. But her eyes sparkle. She claps once, then says, Today's lesson is on metaphors, like how this tree is a classroom, and how your minds are stronger than concrete. You all sit. She teaches you about similes, about rhythm, about the way poems can carry more than just beauty. They can carry memory. You repeat the poem out loud, voices ragged and soft, some kids mumbling through lines they don't fully understand. Then she tells you a secret. I used to teach with real books. She says, hardcovers, leather-bound. But this, she holds up the chalk. This is enough. Historically, Vietnamese educators played a crucial role during the war, often risking their lives to continue teaching in bombed-out villages and jungle hideouts. Lessons covered not only academics, but also practical survival. How to treat burns, how to purify water, how to identify dangerous objects. One quirky detail? Some teachers use their own blood as ink when pens and supplies ran out, writing poems and lessons on cloth scraps, palm leaves, or flattened tin. Historians still argue whether education was a form of resistance or resilience. Perhaps both. To teach in war is to defy the silence bombs try to create. Midway through the lesson, Miss Lou pauses, her hand trembling. She drops the chalk. It's nothing. She brushes it off. But you see the worry in her eyes. You see the lines around her mouth deepen. You wonder how long she can keep showing up under this tree, smiling like this. Before leaving, she makes you each recite one line of the poem. Your brother, of course, shouts as like he's commanding a battalion. Everyone laughs. Even Miss Lou. She sends you home with homework. Find something in this village that's still beautiful. You take it seriously. That afternoon, you wander with your brother, looking at every leaf, every puddle, every crack in the earth. And you find it, not in a flower or a butterfly, but in a patched hammock swinging gently between two charred beams. Still standing, still useful. You write about it on a torn envelope with a stubby pencil. That night, you show Miss Lou your writing. She reads it, nods once, and says, "You're a poet now." You smile, not because you believe it, but because maybe you will. It's quiet, too quiet. No sirens, no shouting, no planes, no boots, no sudden bangs. Just the soft rustle of banana leaves and the occasional cluck from a chicken that somehow survived another week. You lie in your usual spot, staring at the woven ceiling above you, waiting for something. But nothing comes. And that's what unsettles you most. Your brother whispers, "Did the war end?" You shake your head. We'd know. But the stillness feels wrong, like when the cicadas stop chirping before a storm. Your mother isn't smiling. She's standing by the doorway, arms crossed, listening to the sky. Your grandfather lights 3 sticks of incense and mutters under his breath. Even the dog refuses to bark. You go outside. The air hangs heavy, like soup left out too long. The village looks the same, but the atmosphere has shifted. Nobody's hammering. Nobody's shouting across yards. It's as if everyone's afraid of breaking the silence. You walk to the edge of the rice field, where the wind usually picks up. Today it doesn't, not even a breeze. You squat down and touch the soil, warm, damp, undisturbed. This isn't peace. It's a pause. Historically, there were days like this, brief lulls between major bombing campaigns, pauses for strategy shifts, political posturing, or even bad weather over the ocean. In those moments, villages will hold their breath, unsure whether to hope or prepare. Here's a quirky detail. During these quiet days, some families would take the chance to bathe, wash clothes, or even play music softly, believing it might encourage the silence to stay. Others would bury valuables, just in case the noise returned. Historians still argue whether such pauses were intentional gestures from military forces or just tactical hiccups. But to civilians, they felt like the sky had forgotten them, for better or worse. You return home and find your brother building a quiet fort under the table. He's padded it with blankets and lined it with tin cups filled with water. To hear the drops? "Why?" you ask. "If there's no sound," he whispers, "we'll make some." You crawl inside with him, and for a while, you sit in your secret fortress, listening to the dripping from the leaky roof. One drop. Pause. Another drop. You find comfort in the rhythm. Not chaos, just repetition. That night, you lie awake, wondering if the quiet will last. If maybe the world has finally run out of noise. If the war has wandered somewhere else, bored of your little village. You don't trust it. The silence is suspicious. But you admit it's nice to breathe without flinching, to chew without ducking, to sleep with both eyes closed. And just before you drift off, your brother mumbles, "If tomorrow's still quiet, I'm catching a frog big enough to ride." You smile, because even in this uncertain hush, there's still dreaming. You wake not to silence, but to light. Strange light, not the pale blue of morning or the golden warmth of late sun. No, this is cold, sharp, artificial. It bleeds through the cracks in the wall, like a secret trying to get in. You sit up slowly. Your brother's still asleep, one arm wrapped around the frog jar. You crawl toward the door and peek out. The sky is glowing, but it's not sunrise. Flares. Again, they hang in the air like ghost lanterns, falling in slow motion, their white-hot glow casting skeletal shadows across the entire village. The banana trees look like black claws. The road is dusted in silver. The world is lit up but not awake. You hear it before you see it. The softest of parachutes, the eerie hum of far-off engines, and then faintly, The snap and pop of gunfire. Not close, not far, just there. You can't tell which direction. It feels like it's coming from the sky itself. You shake your brother awake. He stirs, groggy. "It's morning," he whispers. "No," you say. "It's something else." Your mother is already dressed. She has the matchbox and the soap tin in her hands. Her lips are tight. She says, "Don't go outside." You nod, but your eyes drift back toward the door. Because something about this light, this glow, makes your chest ache. It's too bright to ignore. Too loud, even without sound. You huddle by the wall. And then comes the whistle. Not of a bomb. Not quite. It's a flare round. A tracer. Maybe screaming through the air like someone tearing paper across the sky. It lands somewhere near the edge of the village. You wait. There's no explosion. Just light. The flares float, illuminating everything in stark detail. You can see into neighbors' yards. You can see the outline of the shelter flap across the road. You can see chickens sleeping, utterly unaware of the theater happening above them. And then another crack. This one hits closer. A flare ignites right over the center of the village. So bright it feels like noon. Shadows vanish. The sky becomes blank. You remember what Miss Lou said during poetry class. Flares don't burn. They expose. Historically, illumination flares were dropped during nighttime combat to flush out movement, to reveal hidden trails, to disrupt sleep. They created the illusion of daylight for soldiers, and for civilians, they turned nights into nightmares. One quirky fact: children sometimes refer to flares as ghost suns or falling moons. Superstition held that if a flare passed directly over your home, someone in your family would fall ill within a week. Historians still argue whether the psychological effect of flares was intentional or incidental. Either way, the message was clear. We see you. You crawl back inside and cover your brother's eyes. He's shivering, not from cold, but from light. You whisper a story into his ear about a boy who built a raft from coconut husks and sailed it into the stars to steal one back for his village. He nods, half listening, half scared. His hand clutches your shirt. Outside, the light finally begins to fade. The flares hiss out one by one. The sky goes dark again, but not gently, like someone turned the world off. And in the darkness that follows, the silence feels real again. Earned. Unnatural light has left, but you know to return, because nothing stays hidden forever. That night, your dreams are blinding. The jungle doesn't whisper today. It screams. Your mother sends you and your brother to gather firewood before noon, hoping to beat the heat. It's become a regular chore. Walk to the tree line. Find dry branches. Avoid anything shiny, metallic, or humming. Easy, right? Except today, the jungle feels wrong. You step under the canopy, where the light thins into green haze, and the air smells of damp moss and old sap. Your brother hums behind you, trailing a sack and still talking to Frog like it's helping with navigation. Then it happens. Crack. Not a twig. Not your step. Not natural. You freeze. One hand out. Your brother bumps into you, then sees your eyes and goes still. Crack, crack. This time louder, like bamboo pole snapping. Then voices. Low. Foreign. English, maybe, or maybe just too far to make out. You crouch low, pressing yourself into a thick root. Your brother does the same. A single word cuts through the brush like a machete. Move. You don't. You've been taught. Stay utterly still. Don't breathe loud. Don't twitch. And whatever you do, don't run. You listen. Boots and mud. The mechanical clack of rifles. The slap of palm leaves against bodies. A dozen footfalls pass within meters of you. You smell sweat and metal. and something sweet, like chewing gum and gasoline. You don't look up. You want to, but you know better. Historically, jungle patrols during the Vietnam War were terrifying for both sides. Civilians often found themselves caught between opposing forces using the same terrain. Americans, South Vietnamese troops, Viet Cong, and local militias. Each step was a gamble. A lesser-known detail: some children were trained as early lookouts, known as chim lan or owl birds, perched in trees to alert villages to approaching units. Others learned to identify different forces by boot tread patterns alone. Historians still argue whether civilian neutrality was ever truly possible. In a war where everyone looked like someone's enemy, trust vanished fast. The footsteps fade. You count to 60, then another 60. When you finally move, your knees crack like dry sticks. Your brother's face is pale, his lips a tight line. The frog? Still calm. Clearly, amphibians aren't fazed by soldiers. You don't speak until you've made it halfway back. That wasn't our soldiers, he whispers. No, you say. Were they looking for us? You don't answer, because maybe they were. Or maybe they were just lost. Or patrolling. Or something else. At home, your mother doesn't ask questions when you return with barely any wood. She just pulls you both into her arms, holds your heads against her chest, and breathes like she's been underwater all day. You don't talk about the jungle at dinner. Instead, you tell your brother a different story. One about a tree that grew weapons to protect its village. Sticks that turned into snakes, leaves that whispered secrets, roots that tripped intruders. He loves it. His eyes shine again. Before bed, he asks, "If we plant that tree, will it grow here?" You nod, as long as we water it with silence. He nods solemnly, like you've handed him a sacred task. You both sleep curled together, close, warm. Outside, the jungle breathes. And tonight, it lets you be. You hear the truck before you see it. A low, throaty engine rumbling up the muddy road, like it's unsure it belongs here. You stop picking herbs mid-step and glance up. Dust kicks up behind the wheels. Your brother drops the frog jar. Luckily, the lid was tight. Everyone watches from their doorways. No one waves. No one runs. Villagers just pause. Suspicion hangs thicker than smoke. It's a convoy truck. Olive green. American. The kind you've only ever seen from a distance. Usually followed by shouting or gunfire, or both. But today, something's different. The truck slows. Not to a stop, but to a crawl. Just enough to see the faces inside. Soldiers. Sunglasses. Helmets. Their eyes scan you like you're part of the landscape. Trees, dirt, children. Nothing more. And then, one of them reaches into a bag. You flinch. But what flies through the air isn't grenade. It's a candy bar. You don't even see who catches it. Some kid, probably older, runs forward and snatches it midair like a goalie in the World Cup. Everyone gasps. Then, for a heartbeat, there's laughter. Real laughter. Light high-pitched, stunned. The soldier in the back waves. No one waves back. They're gone in seconds, the dust swallowing their tires, their presence already evaporating like a dream you're not sure you had. You and your brother look at each other. He's already licking his lips. Do you think they'll come back? I don't know. You think about the candy. American. Chocolate. Sweet. Foreign. The kind you've only ever heard about from the older boys who sneak near the bases to trade rice for treats. Historically, some American troops carried candy and gum in their rations. For many Vietnamese children, the first taste of chocolate came from a stranger in a uniform, tossing food from a truck. It was confusing. Danger dressed like generosity. Here's a fringe detail. Some villages considered it bad luck to accept food from passing soldiers, believing it would bring death within 3 days. Others took whatever they could get. Historians still argue whether these small gestures were meaningful or manipulative. A candy bar won't rebuild a house. But when your stomach's empty, symbolism loses to sugar. Later that afternoon, the boy who caught the chocolate breaks in half and offers a piece to your brother. Smallest kid gets first bite. He says with crooked grin, your brother looks at you. You nod. He bites, and his face melts. Not literally, just in wonder. His mouth is full, and his eyes go wide, and for a second, the war is not here. Not in the taste, not in the heat, not in the sticky brown melting down his fingers. You get a piece too. It's sweet and bitter, like happiness with a shadow. That night, your brother tells everyone at dinner about the chocolate truck. He reenacts the catch, the cheer, the taste. He swears it was the best thing he's ever had. Better than tet candy. Better than sweet tofu. Your grandfather mutters, better enjoy it. Might be the last. You believe him, but that doesn't make it less real. Before bed, your brother draws a truck in the dirt outside your house. Big wheels, tiny windows, a stick figure soldier leaning out, handing down a rectangle. He labels it Choco Tiaruke. You don't erase it. Let it stay. Because maybe next time it won't be just chocolate. Maybe next time they'll bring peace too. Some nights, the scariest sounds aren't bombs, they're stories. Tonight, there are no flares, no sirens, no trucks. Just a sky full of stars and the distant croak of frogs. You sit outside with your family, a small fire crackling the clay hearth, its smoke spiraling into the night air. Your brother is on your lap, too sleepy to sit upright, but too curious to go to bed. And then your grandfather clears his throat. You know what's coming. Want to hear about the Bei Chong? He asks with a crooked grin, poking the fire with a half-burnt stick. Booby traps. He tells the tale with relish. About the hidden pits lined with bamboo spikes, the tripwires strung through trees, the fake rice bags rigged with grenades. Each one, a clever invention of villagers and fighters trying to defend their land. Traps that didn't just kill, they taught lessons. You lean in closer, both horrified and fascinated. The best one, your grandfather says, eyes gleaming, was the one they called the Whistler. You step on it, and it sings right before it bites. Your brother gulps. Then come the ghost stories. About the woman with no feet who floats down the road, looking for her son who stepped on a mine. About the soldier who buried his anger with his bones and now rattles under floorboards at night. About the jungle that grows back over graves but never forgets the names. Your grandmother swats him with a woven fan. They won't sleep, she warns. They'll learn, he replies. You do. Historically, booby traps were a major element of guerrilla warfare during the Vietnam War. Pits, punji sticks, tripwires, and other handmade devices were designed to wound, not always kill, forcing the enemy to spend time and resources on evacuation and care. One lesser-known fact? Children in villages often help craft components for traps, sharpening sticks, collecting vines, even scouting for ideal hiding spots. They didn't always understand what they were building. Historians still argue whether such tactics prolonged the war or just prolonged the pain. But in places where guns were scarce, sharp bamboo became strategy. After the fire dies down, your grandfather pulls out a tiny bottle, dark green, glass, the size of a thumb. What's that? You ask. Tiger balm, he says, and spirit shield. He dabs a little on each of your temples. The menthol sting wakes you up, but you say nothing. It's part of the ritual, to keep the ghost from climbing into your dreams. Your brother, of course, demands a double dose. Inside, as you curl into your mat, you think about traps. Not the ones made with rope and sticks. The invisible ones. The kind that sit inside your chest when you hear a plane. The kind that snaps shut every time someone goes quiet for too long. Your brother mumbles, "If we get rich after the war, can we make traps with lasers?" "Lasers," you whisper back. "Yeah, like in the American movies." You think for a second. Maybe, but first we need rice. He yawns. And a fridge. The house creaks. The night hums. And somewhere out there, past the jungle and the smoke, the war waits. Not in silence, but in stories. Tech comes without fireworks. No dragon dances. No red envelopes. No laughter echoing through the alleys or drums pounding late into the night. Just smoke. Just quiet. Just tension so thick it clings to your skin like sweat. Still, your mother tries. She scrubs the floor with lemon leaves, hangs a faded red cloth above the doorway, and burns a tiny handful of incense at the family altar. There's only enough rice for one meal today, so she shapes it into neat little mounds like offerings, each one sprinkled with salt and a pinch of sugar. Your brother insists on wearing his torn-out dye, the one with a missing button and a stubborn grass stain across the sleeve. He says it's his lucky armor. You don't argue. It's supposed to be the year of the tiger. But the only roaring today comes from the distant sound of helicopters. You sit with your neighbors around a cold pot of tea. No one touches it. Miss Lou is there, her eyes red but dry. She brought a tiny paper lantern, handmade, creased, its colors faded. She places it in the center of the group like a candle at a vigil. "Light it," someone whispers. "No," she says. "Just look." Historically, the Tet holiday in 1968 became infamous for the surprise offensive launch by North Vietnamese forces, a coordinated assault across more than 100 cities and outposts. For many villagers, Tet changed forever that year, transforming from a celebration into a warning. Here's a lesser-known detail. Some families in the countryside buried their fireworks during the war, literally. Fearing they'd be mistaken for gunshots, they hid them deep in clay pots beneath the house, hoping to dig them up someday. Historians still argue whether the Tet Offensive was a military victory or a psychological turning point. For civilians, it didn't matter. Tet was no longer safe. Back in your village, the night falls fast. You and your brother sit by the window, watching shadows stretch. Your mother hums an old folk song under her breath. Your grandfather sharpens a broken kitchen knife, slowly, methodically, not for cooking, but for just in case. At midnight, you light a single candle. No one speaks. There are no firecrackers, no lion dancers, no trays of bon chung wrapped in banana leaves. Just one small flame. Your brother leans close. "Do you think the tiger will protect us this year?" You glance at the candle. "I think it already has." "Why?" "We're still here." That night, you dream of a tiger, not fierce, not growling, but tired. It walks through the ruins of villages, tail dragging, stripes dulled by dust. But its eyes are kind, and it lies down beside your house, curling around it like a shield. When you wake, the candle is still burning. The news comes with the wind. No radio, no letter, just a neighbor with dirt on her feet and tears on her shirt, running down the path shouting words that make your stomach knot. Hanoi's burning. You're shelling peanuts with your brother when she yells it. At first, you think she means a fire, a stove accident, something local. But then you catch the words again, B-52s, whole blocks, the bakery's gone. And that's when you realize she's talking about your uncle. Your mother's brother runs a small bakery in Hanoi. He used to send photos of you and your brother in the mail, folded between drawings of baguettes and laughing customers. You remember his laugh, the way he always smelled of yeast and charcoal. You remember the stories about how he once baked bread for 3 days straight during a blackout, feeding the whole block with just 2 sacks of flour and an iron will. Now, he might be dust. You all stand there, frozen. The neighbor keeps talking. Lists of streets, neighborhoods, buildings reduced to ash. You catch the name of the one near your uncle's, not as directly, but close enough to imagine glass shattered, flour rising like ghost smoke, ovens melting into slag. No one knows if he made it. No one can get through. Historically, the Christmas bombings, or Operation Linebacker 2, took place in December 1972, when U.S. B-52 bombers unleashed nearly 20,000 tons of explosives over North Vietnam, including Hanoi. Civilian areas were hit. Hospitals, homes, even foreign embassies were caught in the firestorm. One fringe detail. In the days that followed, some surviving Hanoians scrawled poetry on the rubble, verses of defiance, mourning, or sometimes just names, written in charcoal on blackened walls. Historians still debate whether the bombings forced the North Vietnamese to negotiate peace or simply strengthened their resolve. For families like yours, the debate doesn't matter. You're just hoping your uncle wasn't baking bread when the sky fell. That night, your mother pulls out a letter. Not a new one, an old one, the last one he sent weeks ago. The paper is smudged, the ink faded. He wrote about how the dough rose better when he hummed old folk songs. He signed it with a sketch of a smiling loaf and a note, "For the little one who dreams of cakes." That's you. Your brother doesn't understand why no one's speaking. He tugs at your sleeve. Can we send a letter? Maybe, you say, if we find an address. He nods solemnly and disappears into the corner, scribbling on paper. 20 minutes later, he hands you a folded note. "Dear Uncle, I hope you ducked." You don't cry, but your hands shake as you tuck it into the empty sugar jar on the shelf. Just in case. That night, you light another candle. And for the first time, you pray not to survive, but to see someone again. The wind rattles the window panes. Somewhere far away, a city smolders. And in a quiet kitchen without sugar or bread, you imagine the smell of baking and wonder if ghosts can still make dough rise. The letter arrives like a ghost. Folded cloth, smudged ink, the corners stiff with grime. No envelope, no stamp, just a dirty strip of khaki green fabric, sewn at one edge like someone meant to hide it under a shirt or in a boot. Your mother finds in the hands of traveling cyclists, passed from town to town like a secret. She doesn't say a word as she unrolls it. You watch her eyes move over the words. Slowly, carefully, like each syllable might dissolve if she blinks too hard. Your grandfather leans in, but your mother doesn't hand it over. Not yet. She reads it again, lips barely moving. Then she holds it to her chest and closes her eyes. "It's from him," she says. You know who she means. Your brother doesn't. Who? She shows you. The writing is rough, jagged, like it was done with a stick dipped in motor oil. Some of it has bled into the fabric, but you can make out the words. Still alive, still moving. Keep the frog alive. On, your brother gasps. It's from your oldest brother, the one you barely remember. He left when you were small, barely old enough to know his shadow. He joined the army, or the militia, or the resistance. No one says exactly. He was tall, you think. He carved you a wooden top once. And then one day he was gone. For a long time, it was like he never existed. No photos, no letters, just your mother's silence when his name came up and your grandfather's habit of placing one extra bowl on the altar during Tet. But now, proof, a whisper, a heartbeat on fabric. You pass the cloth to your brother, who holds it like a treasure map. He squints at the line about the frog. He remembers? You nod. Guess so. That night, Your mother takes out a tin of things she hasn't touched in years. A patch from a uniform, a bead bracelet, half of a broken slingshot. All little anchors from a version of her son that lived here before he became someone else. She doesn't say much, just places the letter on top. Historically, letters during the Vietnam War were precious, carried by hand, sewn into clothes or etched into tree bark and passed between safe houses. They took weeks or months to arrive. Many never did, but when they did, they were read until the ink wore away. Here's a fringe fact. Some fighters wrote their messages in lemon juice, using the heat of fire to reveal the words on the other side. Invisible letters, visible only to the ones who knew where to look. Historians still argue how much impact these letters had on morale. For soldiers, they were lifelines. For families, they were proof that memory could outlive distance. You fall asleep that night, clutching a stone, not for luck, just something real to hold. Your brother sleeps with the letter tucked under his mat, frog jar beside him like a tiny, gurgling pillow. And in your dream, your older brother walks through the jungle barefoot, tall, tired, smiling. He lifts the frog to his shoulder like a general pins on a medal. When you wake, the sun's not up yet, but it feels closer. The night feels different. No one says it. No one dares say it. But it's there, woven into the wind, flickering in the lanterns, curled under bamboo mats like a breath held too long. Something's shifted. The adults move slower. The soldiers stationed near the village haven't been seen in days. The sirens haven't screamed. The sky has stopped bleeding flares. Something is ending, but you don't trust it yet. You sit outside, your brother beside you, both of you peeling roasted peanuts with fingers that still twitch at loud noises. Across the yard, your mother's talking quietly with Miss Lou. They keep glancing at the road. A dog barks once, then silence, and then a boy runs into the village. Older, barefoot, panting, his clothes soaked in sweat and tears and smoke. You know that look. It's the look of someone who's seen. "The war's ending," he shouts. No one cheers. Not right away. Your grandfather raises one eyebrow. Ending how? The Americans are leaving. It's in Saigon. People are dancing. Miss Lou covers her mouth. Your mother drops the bamboo spoon she's been holding for 20 minutes. Your brother? He looks at you. Is that good? You want to say yes, but you've lived too long under a sky that changes its mind. Historically, the Vietnam War formally ended on April 30th, 1975, when Saigon fell and the last U.S. helicopters lifted off from the embassy rooftop. But in the countryside, news was slow. Villages learned through whispers, radio static, and the absence of gunfire. There were no speeches, no parades, just stillness. One fringe detail: some rural children believed the helicopters were taking the sun away with them because the light that day felt different. Historians still argue whether the war truly ended that day, or if it merely transformed into something quieter, but no less difficult. That night, you don't run to the shelter. You sit by the fire. Your grandfather sharpens no knives. Your mother doesn't pack a bag. Miss Lou reads a poem aloud, and no one tells her to keep her voice down. You lie beside your brother under a mosquito net, and for once, sleep comes easily. No counting bombs. No checking escape paths. Just breathing. You dream of your older brother, sitting at a bakery table with your uncle, eating sweet bread under a sky that no longer drops anything but stars. And when you wake, the morning is warm, really warm, not humid or harsh, just golden, soft. Your brother stirs beside you. He stretches, then whispers, "I think the frog's smiling." You smile too, because maybe, just maybe, the world has stopped trying to kill you. And now the noise fades. The sirens are gone. The sky has exhaled. The village, bruised but breathing, settles into something like rest. You sit on the porch, barefoot, sipping tea made from crushed lemon leaves and rainwater. It tastes bitter but honest, the kind of flavor that doesn't need sugar to be real. Your brother naps in a hammock, one hand curled around a wooden toy he carved himself. The frog is gone, set free in the river days ago, but you still think about it sometimes. How it never stopped blinking, never stopped floating. Above you, the clouds drift without purpose. They aren't hiding bombs anymore. Just sunlight, just time. You walk slowly now, not from fear, but from unfamiliar peace. The sound of sweeping returns to the alleys. Laughter, too, soft and cautious, like someone testing a new pair of shoes. Some homes rebuild, some don't. But the people, they stay. They plan again. They wait for the soil to forget. And you, still small, still watching, begin to dream in full color again. Not gray, not ash, but bright reds and soft yellows and deep, deep greens. Because even after everything, the jungle is still alive. So are you? Sleep now. Let the silence cradle you, not because it's a warning, but because it's earned. Let the night hold your name gently. You've made it. You've come through.